Man. It has been a day. Okay. YouTube. Yo, YouTube is violating right now. You're like, bro, you've been stalling on this live stream the whole day. I done rescheduled this live stream about 15 times. I'm officially the boy who cried wolf right now. YouTube is not sending this out. And I can't blame them. YouTube is not sending this out, and I can't blame them. Man. But I'm still in a good mood anyway. I'm still in a good mood. This is a fact. I am still in a good mood. Yeah. The reason I'm in a good mood is because I am not in as bad a shape as I thought. And sometimes things happen for a reason. Sometimes things happen for a reason. So I had to update. And modify the physical. Yeah. I know a lot of y'all done forgot about it. A lot of y'all done forgot about it. Right? We had certifications. Now it was an honor system. It's an honor system, but we still had certifications. Everybody was supposed to be doing their 60 and 60. They 60 and 60 at least once or twice a year to show that they're qualified to represent us out in the world, right? If you can't do your 60 and 60 as a man, you can't do your 40 or your 40 and 60 as a woman, you're not qualified to represent us out in the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, that was our standard. And I think while I was posting push-ups every 5 minutes on the internet, it stayed in the front of people's minds like, hey, even though we're dealing with the information, we still have to be, I ain't gonna say physically fit, because all of these terms have been taken up. So I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to come up with another term. So I'll think of something. But physically fit is officially commercialized. Fit is gone because now you have the like the MMA version of exercise, the same way the MMA movement destroyed the martial arts movement. The CrossFit movement has officially destroyed like the fitness, like that's, yeah. Those ain't Rolex diamonds. What you done to that? You know what I'm saying? Like that's, yeah, they killed it. Now I'm a fan, a casual fan maybe. I'm a fan though. I think and now I'm forgetting the guy's name, but there was one guy that won like 5 or 6 years in a row, the CrossFit. I was a fan of his, I think that was kind of like probably early on in the CrossFit days, even though I used to make jokes about how they do their pull-ups and stuff like that. I still was a fan of like the competition and the sacrifice and all whatever they, put into the training, just enjoying the exercise, portion and seeing the dedication and people pushing themselves to the limit, but that's not healthy. That's not healthy. That's a sport. So, you go in for the sport, to be a champion, you sacrifice, you know what I'm saying? But that's not, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not what folks is trying to, like, folks just trying to live to be 100. You know what I'm saying? Folks trying to live to be 100. Physically able. Right. Something to that effect. Physically able. Yeah, we gotta be physically, we gotta be physically able. You know what I'm saying? Like, we in a situation where, we're just losing it. We're just losing it. So, I created my own, I had to come back. I had to come back with something. You know what I'm saying? I had to bring it back. You know what I'm saying? I had to bring it back. So we got 3 new books. Yeah, we got 3 new books. We got 3 new books. 3, 1, 2, 3 books. We got 3 new books. Let me pull these out. We got 3 new books. Listen, YouTube is not rocking with us today. I done violated too many times today, so I don't know if anybody is going to see this live stream. People will probably see the playback, but I don't know about the live stream. YouTube is like, yo, you play too much. You done played too much already today. You done played too much. My children was like, Dad, you should just scrap it and just wait till tomorrow. But I was like, nah, tomorrow's another day. All right, so yeah, these are the 3 new books right here. These are the 3 new books. Now, this book, we had a good conversation about this book already. All right, we had a really good conversation about this book. I really feel good about the context of what we was able to, where we was able to go. Especially for some of the people that might be, they need a little splash of something different, but it's really not, right? It's really not. As I'm erasing oxytocin, estrogen, and vasopressin, right? As I'm I'm taking these off the board, right? As I'm taking these off the board, we're getting to a place where things are, well, for a lot of people, let me say that, because I know everybody watching is at different spaces with it. Some people just start watching, some people have been watching for 10 years, right? Some people fell off, got back on, fell off, got back on. Some people got 2 books, some people got 20 books, some people have 50 books, some people have more of my books than I do, right? But it's beginning to come together, right? It's beginning to come together for folks. It's beginning to come together, right? And so as it's beginning to come together, right, things are going to become more and more simple. It's going to become more and more simple, right? Things are going to become more and more simple, right? We're going to be able to simplify, right? There's no, there's no process in the human body that operates outside of this dynamic. There's no process in the human body that operates outside this dynamic, right? So this is how things are going to be. Things are going to be becoming more and more simple, right? The more complex as you get through the work and you go through the work, you know, like when you first start with this, right? And you notice the books are loaded with encyclopedia stuff and Wikipedia and National Library of Medicine and National Library of Biochemistry and just all these articles, and there's a lot of stuff, right? Some of it's a head buster, you know, like if you're not used to reading, you have to develop your reading muscles. You have to develop your literacy endurance over here, right? So we're building minds, right? BMF, still BMF. We BMF. We building minds fast, right? We building minds fast. That's what we doing. Yeah, I remember when I came up with that. I don't know what. I must have been watching one of them seasons of Power, or you know, whatever. And I said, yeah, no, we the other type of BMF. We building minds fast. We're not blowing money fast. We building minds fast, right? But I think it didn't really hit until folks started to read the anatomy of the mind books. And as you realize that your whole body contributes to your mind, every one of your cells, then you get, okay, building the mind is building the body. Building the mind is building the body. Building the mind is building the body. Every single one of, right? When we talk about this guy over here, right? This guy. Right? Remember? Remember the Black Lives Matter book? Freemasonry Exposed, the Black Lives Matter book. If you don't have the Black Lives Matter book, Black Lines Matter. This book right here. Not Black Lives, Black Lines. Right? If you don't have the Black Lines Matter book, go right now to Amazon, add this to your cart, check out. Right? But this right here, this benzene ring, right? My body feels sore right now. Yeah, my body's a little sore. I've been trying to figure this thing out. I've been doing like 3 days a week, full body. So my butt cheeks sore. Pause. Yeah. I've been squatting, clenching. You know what I'm saying? Like prayer 5 times a day. Right? Even the prayer 5 times a day getting tough. You start doing the workout, start doing workouts too, and the prayer get tough. Right? But this guy right here, the aromatic ring, right? The aromatic ring. This is important, right? This is important because all of your hormones and pretty much all of your cellular structures involved with instruction, giving instruction, creating instruction, receiving instruction, relaying instruction, are built with these rings. Aromatic rings. The reason is because aromatic rings interact with light, right? So, there's no hormones in the body. They all work on this premise, right? So instead of having to remember, hundreds of different chemical messages and hormones, it's really a lot easier for us to understand these basic forces, right? The basic forces of our universe are the forces that are at work in the body, right? Same forces, right? So it was timely for us to just kind of flesh that out, that what we're teaching is real spirituality, right? It's not, what many churches or mosques or synagogues are doing. It's not what, these guys with the sex, yoga, Kundalini, chakra, it's not that. It's really what it is that we're doing. This is what the mystery schools look like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago. This is what they were this is what they were teaching. This is what they were studying. Right? This is the reason why EnQi, the central feature of all sciences, whether it was masonry and it's, math and geometry and building and chemistry, or whether it was the sunu, the doctors, right? Dealing with the health of the body, the same thing still applied, right? Or whether it was the priesthood, right? Which is why it's so difficult for outsiders to understand what it is that they were doing, because they always say it was a mixture of math music and religion, or magic, right? Or religion, magic, and science, and it's a mixture of these things. It's not. It's not, though, really, right? It's just science. There's no mixture of magic, or at least not in the fantastic sense. The magic part is just the griot part. It's the teaching part. It's the mnemonic part. It's the anthropomorphizing ideas, to simplify, right? To simplify. So I was happy because I got a B plus. And I want y'all to do this. I want y'all to be able to put yourselves through this little 20-minute physical test. I want y'all to be able to put yourselves through this 20-minute physical test, right? Now, in the new book, I think it's in the newest book. Yeah, it's in the newest book, right? That's why you see. What is this? Okay. Yeah, you see that? Neferland Propulsion Lab Math, right? Neferland Propulsion Lab Math, right? Warning, pressure bust pipes, right? So, yeah. This right here is our, I'll be still, I'm still on, But I wanted to, we have this already, right? And I make sure to heavily reference it. I made sure to make a heavy reference, so that just in case, if you don't have this book already, just in case if you don't have this book already, bam. You don't have this book already, right? This book here is a high blood pressure book, because a lot of people still ask me high blood pressure questions, right? This is a high blood pressure book. It's focused on the kidney, because if you have high blood pressure for a while and it's not checked and you're not taking care of it, you're going to have kidney failure. A lot of people segue into kidney failure because they have high blood pressure issues. That's kind of how it goes, right? High blood pressure, diabetes, high blood pressure, and then shortly following is kidney problems, right? So kidney problems follows diabetes like freaking frack, like Jack and Jill. That's kind of how it goes. So, this is an important book for high blood pressure, but I felt like we needed to double back, right? So that's where we get the pressure bust pipes, because, we kind of, but I did good. I was exhausted after I did the 20-minute test. When I say exhausted, I was exhausted, like, but I surprised myself how well I did. Yeah, I surprised myself how well I did. But this book I don't think I could top this. This is pretty tough. But it's written from a kidney standpoint. It's written from a kidney standpoint, right? So we needed to kind of get some other things on the table, right? We needed to get some other things on the table, right? Specifically, like everything is in sync. Everything is in sync, so we're going to the Jed pillar, right? Working on the spine. The spine has that relationship with the heart through the aorta. Like they're literally tied together, right? The spine and the aorta are tied together. You know what I'm saying? And the aorta obviously is an extension. It's the arm of the heart, right? So we kind of had to segue because we needed to go. So from the Jed pillar, we needed to get deeper into this relationship between the nerves, electricity, and the blood flow, magnetism, right? So in the Jed pillar book, we kind of open up this doorway in terms of electricity and magnetism. Like now you have systems, right? You have an electrical system, you have a magnetism system, right? You have an electricity system, which is your nervous system, all facets of it. And then you have a magnetism system. Now, obviously, the nervous system does all kinds of other things, circulatory system as well. But these are the driving forces, right? The driving forces, right? And it's important because to our other conversation, these are the driving forces of the universe, right? You got these theoretical conversation, right? You get the theoretical conversation, which is the strong nuclear force and the weak nuclear force. And it's not really theoretical. It's kind of backed and proven and blah, 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 at least as of today's model of the atom, right? Because you have to remember, model of the atom changes often, right? The model of the atom changes often, right? Every 50 to 100 years is a new model of the atom, and we're overdue right now, right? We're overdue. So when the new model of the atom changes, right? Because hydrogen is hydrogen is always there, and it presents a problem for somebody, problem for some of these, it's like, okay, a lot of the strong nuclear force, weak nuclear force, a lot of that is predicated on the idea of neutrons, right? A lot of that is predicated on the idea of neutrons. Even though I'm just talking, you know what I'm saying right now. I got stay focused, EnQi. We got to get to the physical examination. But I'm just saying, one thing's for sure, two things for certain. Electricity and magnetism will always be working. Like those things aren't going to change. Those things aren't going to change, right? So when our ancestors were talking about the earthly forces and the forces from the heavenly bodies, and yeah, I don't think it was. I don't think it was anything other than these guys, right? But as for now, we got to rock with strong nuclear force, weak nuclear force, but there's hydrogen. And, I keep, I keep reminding everybody that hydrogen is just one electron and one proton. So really, hydrogen kind of destroys, I ain't gonna say destroys, but it's different. Because all the other atoms are built on the idea of hydrogen. Our universe, our solar system is built on hydrogen. The sun is hydrogen primarily. Like it's water, it's hydrogen, so the fact that it's just one proton, there's really no nucleus in a hydrogen atom. There's no nucleus. It's just a proton. So you got to even challenge the idea of nucleus, because there's no neutron, there's no protons, there's no nucleus. It's just a proton floating around with an electron. And if there are just two items locked into a relationship, there's no center of that relationship, right? There's not an electron going around a proton, because that the proton could be going around the electron, or they could just both be moving at the same time, just staying locked in phase with each other. Like there's no nucleus in that scenario, really. Like it's just the bond between the proton. Anyway, so my point is, you have your nervous system and you have your circulatory system, right? Nervous system runs on electricity. Circulatory system runs on magnetism, right? And we know that anytime you have alternating electric fields and magnetic fields, you have light, right? And all of your body pretty much is designed that way. All of your body is pretty much designed the alternating electric and magnetic. Like that's what your whole body is designed on. Like everything is set up that way. So that's how we go from the jet pillar or neuroanatomy in the spine to, segueing out into this electric and magnetic conversation, right? Because everywhere in the body where you have nerves, you have blood flow. Everywhere you have nerves, you have blood flow, right? If something happens to the blood flow, then something happens to the nerves. That's how it goes. If something happens to the nerves, then something happens to the blood flow. I don't know how y'all was raised, right? But this is how I was raised, right? And some people in my era, like if you had brothers and sisters, or you had, you was raised with, family or whatever, we was raised in a way where if one person come back upstairs, if one person come back home and they got a bloody lip or black eye or anything happened to them, that same thing better had happened to everybody. Yeah, that same thing better have happened to everybody, or you getting a whooping. Like you already know what it is. Like you might as well fight club yourself. Like you might as well beat yourself up before you get in the house. Like, don't come inside. Right? Period. Even if you wasn't around. Like maybe somebody got into a fight in school and you better let them go in first and explain that, and then you come in afterwards. Like, yeah, I was at school. They was at school, like. Don't let anybody enter into this doorway bruised up if you're not bruised up, because that's what family is. That's what together is, all for one, one for all. That's what it is to move as a unit, right? And so when we look at Deion Sanders or LeVar Ball, and I'm only mentioning them because They're really popular guys that have amputations, right? When we look at that, one or the other happened. When you look around at people in your family, some of you watching right now, something might be going on with you, right? That's why we kind of went through. If you go through the Jed Pillar book, it's not possible for you to read that book and not see the body in a totally different light, right? You know, if you just think about, I think it's volume 2. Is it volume 2? Maybe it's volume 3 of the Ebers Papyrus. It might be volume 3. Yeah, it might be volume 3, where we talked about glaucoma, high blood pressure in the eyes, right? You know, talking about the similarities between people losing their feet and losing their eyesight. Right? People losing their feet, losing their eyesight. Right? Capillaries, people losing sexual function. Right? So here's the thing, and I know sometimes people question like how I move sometimes from maybe a more science-centered conversation to a more of a physical body-centered conversation. And the reason being is because the science is to prevent or maybe try to reverse some of the damage. You know, like this is the whole idea. You know what I'm saying? Like you got Yaki. Yaki is so far behind us. He out there talking about broccoli, like. But the whole idea, and shout out to him, you know what I'm saying? But the whole idea of what to eat and what not to eat and all these things is just so that we don't lose function in our body. You know, people getting into their 40s, some of these people, listen, some people in their 30s are already wearing diapers. There are men that already have on Depends in their 30s. Nobody's going to admit that. They're not going to admit that. I'm not wearing no Depends. I'm not wearing no Depends, and I don't have to take no pills for my, you know, my program, my stuff to work. Yeah. No diaper, no leakage, and I don't need any pills for my stuff to work. Everybody can't say that after 35. It's a different world out there. It's vicious. It's vicious. And social media is making people more vain. Like they're more vain about how they look externally, you know, as opposed to what's going on the inside. Now, I'm not perfect, but, you know, I'm working on me. I'm working on me, right? And I'm trying as much as possible to share the information so you can work on you, right? I'm working on me. I need you to be working on you. Yeah. And so when we're looking at, you know, especially the damage of diabetes, you know, diabetes sends into the central, you know, if you got a chance to watch that, autism video we did the other day, Go Left, it went extremely left. It was crazy. It went extremely left, right? I hadn't had that happen in a while. Yeah, I hadn't had that energy in a while. That was interesting. Brother was cussing out, like calling my children names and all. Like that was crazy. That was crazy. Mm, that was wild. But it's like that's what happens when people, get passionate and we sit in these little echo chambers. We only talk to people that agree with us. And so we build up over time, like a know-it-all thing. And when somebody disagrees with us, it feels like you're being personally attacked. And it's partially due to chemistry. It's partially due to chemistry. When you get a like, that's why social media is built the way it's built. It's built to be addictive. When you get a like, it releases endorphins and dopamine in your brain. So it's addictive, right? When you get criticism, when you get criticized, it releases, small amounts of like cortisol and the opposite type of chemicals. So it hurts, to an extent. Now we build up tolerance to it depending on what type of lifestyle we lead, right? This is the problem with quote unquote yes men. Like when people get rich or they become, like a manager or a supervisor or whatever the case may be, and they get used to being surrounded by yes, that's right. You so smart. You so beautiful. You look so good. You so tall. When they get used to only positive reinforcement, any small criticism or disagreement hurts them. It's like it's 10 times, it's like a punch in the stomach, like. So when they come lashing out at you, like, yeah, your mother, this, and that, and you, blah, 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 blah. That's because that's how you made them feel by, not agreeing with whatever it is that they're pushing, So I'm saying that to say not to, go back into our guy, DP. Get it? Not to go back into our guy, DP. But just to say that, we have a lot of new research, a lot of new information, a lot of new ideas, and a lot of people they need a lot of work in terms of education, right? This is why we have the books. The books can help you teach people and reach people that maybe your conversation can't, right? When a person reads, they're alone. It's a book, even if the book has a lot of ideas in it that they may not agree with, the book is a lot less threatening. They're alone reading the book. They can go at their own pace and they can challenge the concepts in the book to debunk the book, and through that process, they'll learn. They'll be teaching themselves, right? As they're looking up the items and the reference points and the. So I know that when this video goes up and, we have 20 people live or 50 people live or in, another 2 or 3 days, 500 people or 1,000 people see the video. I know that all of those people, some of them are 20, some of them are 60, right? Some of them are vegan. Some of them are going to be watching the video with the blunt and a bag of, White Castle burgers, maybe. It's, it's a variety. You know what I'm saying? It's a variety. Some people are going to be really super obese. A couple of people that are watching are IFBB pros. right? See, we have all types of folks that are, you know, in different spaces and different pockets. The one thing that unites us, though, is that we all kind of like don't want to get like unalive. Right? So that's the reason why we go from the science to the functionality, because health is really just function, right? The health of my hand, right? Just because I want to drive it home, right? The health of my hand is how well I can do this, right? How well can I do this? That's what determines literally how healthy my hand is. How well can my hand, like hand as a noun and hand as a verb, how well can it grab things and hold on to things? And, you know, each finger, how well can they all open and close? And, you know, like that's all health is, right? It gets, you know, people overcomplicated to make it, you know, something it's not. That's all it is. How well can your hand, right? And so where the study is important is because, you know, hand is simple. You've been watching them all your life, using them all your life, but a lot of people may not know what a spleen does, right? You may not know really what a kidney does. You may not really know. You know, I still have people to this day that debate me on the pancreas when they hear me saying things like the pancreas is two organs or two glands in one. Yeah, the pancreas is two glands in one. They're like, oh, see, that's that, you know, that's that made up stuff right there. I'm like, do you know anything about the pancreas? it's a it's unique. It's the tale of two cities. It's an exocrine and an endocrine gland. It's, you know, together though, one. You know, and the way it's designed, you know, it may not even be seen as a gland, a standalone gland at all. You know, it may be seen as part of the liver, or, you know, it just depends. Different cultures have organized it differently in the body, right? The traditional Chinese medicine, they don't organize the human body the way we do. You know, they got the triple burner and this, and that. Like, they're not dealing with it, you know. They understand English, though. They know how we, you know, they know how we do, you know, stomach, kidney, this, that, and other, but that's not how they do. Right. So it's just, you know, but in order to understand health, that's like the basic part. Right. You can't really talk about spine health if you don't know like what a spine does. You know, or heart, if you don't know what a heart does. Right. So we gotta learn what all these things are. Right. That's the first thing. Right. Because to really understand how a thing functions, you need to know what it's made out of. Right. And see, that's where you get into, you know, I'm trying to simplify this because I got a couple questions over the Easter weekend. I'm trying to, like, you know, simplify. Thanks to our guy Daniel. Daniel's a superstar. You know, I done made Daniel famous now. Daniel's a superstar. But yeah, some people ask questions after that video that I don't think they would have asked before that video, right? So that it was good. If you haven't seen the video, you should watch the video. It's a good video, right? But yeah, so that's kind of where that goes. Like, it's just function. So we got to learn how the organs function so that we can understand the idea of what a healthy organ does. And in order to understand the function of a thing, we need to understand the construction, right? We need to understand the construction, right? Maybe not like to cardiosurgeon degree, but you need to understand how a thing is made, at least to some extent, right? And then when you understand how a thing is made, right, that's going to tell you two things. That's going to tell you how it functions. That's also going to tell you what resources it needs to regenerate itself and maintain itself, right? So to learn the function, you got to learn the construction. To learn the construction, you have to learn about the construction material. You see how we just did that? If you don't know what just happened, I just simplified for you the kinetic science, the line between a Mason and a doctor. This is why in Kemet, the Masons were also the doctors. Like this is one group in Kemet. So you can't be pro-Kemet and be like anti-Mason. Like that's not a real thing. Because if you're anti-Mason, you're anti-Kemet. That's just what that is. Right? Masonry is a Kemetic thing. Right? So form denotes function, right? So now we're going backwards, right? So in order to understand the function of a thing, we want to understand its construction. We learn about the construction. We go in two directions. We now know more about the function. We also know more about the material, right? As we learn about the material, we now know about the energy required to maintain, to make it go, right? To make it go. That's the relationship, the basic relationship between energy and matter, right? Matter is composed of energy, right? But in order for matter to go, it requires energy. Right? So it's crystallized energy, but it needs actual fluid energy in order to make it go and do whatever it is it's supposed to do. Right? So that's what we've, been doing layer by 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 layer with the body. Right? And it's only after you really peel all those layers that you can really have a much more simplified conversation about food. Right? So you go through the kitchen chemistry book. If you don't have the kitchen chemistry book, go to Amazon now, add that to your cart, checkout, right? Or the Constitution book. If you don't have the Constitution book, go to Amazon, add it to your cart, checkout, right? But this is how food becomes a lot more simple, right? Even ingredients, right? Because the more you know about the construction of your body, the less you need to know about food ingredients. Because you can look at a thing and be like, well, my body doesn't have, like, where is this going? Where is this going? This doesn't have a, right?
Oh, I know what I'm supposed to do. I know what I'm supposed to do. There we go. Good thing I have my grocery shopping list. Don't leave home without it.
Right? Okay. So that's how the food conversation gets a lot easier, right? To the point where you get on autopilot and then you become the teacher. That's the whole idea of this, for you to become the teacher, right? For you to build the understanding, right? And then even the idea of exercise becomes easier, right? Because at exercise point, right, is like going full circle. Health. Health is function of the human body, how well your body functions, right? How long can you walk? How fast can you walk, right? That'll let us know some degree of health. Can you run? Can you jump, right? Can you, do you sleep well at night? Can you sleep well at night? Why aren't you sleeping well, right? Can you have sex? Like is everything functioning properly, right? Are you fertile? Can you make a baby? Can you carry a baby without miscarriage or losing the baby? Like, are you healthy, right? As a human, can you do the stuff humans supposed to do? Can you read a full book, right? Without your head hurting or losing concentration or like, can you do the stuff that your body's designed to do? And so you want to learn about that first before you start really going crazy with exercise, before you start trying to go crazy with foods and stuff. You want to learn about that, right? Function. Then you want to learn about, after you get a good idea of how all the body parts function and what they're made out of and stuff, and then it's how they work together. Then it's how to get them stronger, right? How to repair function. That's what exercise is for. I'm almost certain from the conversations I had in the last 48 hours that I don't know what happened. I feel like everybody went through like a massive amnesia. But I'm asking people, like, you know what exercise is for? People like, yeah, so I can get a bigger chest, or I can get a stronger this, or I can get abs, or, sharp. The smarter people was like, oh, well, all cause mortality rates. And like, I'm like, no, that's not. That's not what exercise is for. It's not for self-defense. Exercise goes back to the first thing, the health part, the function. Exercise is to reinforce function, reinforce natural movement. They can tell how soon you're going to die. Like they can literally tell how many years you have left on this earth by how easy it is for you to get up off the toilet after you do a number 2. Because some people can't. In their 30s. Some people have to, they use the sink, or they, depending on how their bathroom is, they grab onto the toilet tissue thing, and they, like they need help getting off the toilet. Subconsciously, they don't even pay attention to the fact that they need help getting up. Like, bro, you ask folks, when did that start happening? Some people don't even know. Like, I can't remember when I started using the sink to stand up, but I used the sink to stand up. Okay, well, let's talk about that. Which muscles, let's try to isolate some muscles. Let's figure out what's going on. Right? Let's figure out what's going on from the skeletal muscles to the inside, because they work together. Right? So you got the skeletal muscle, right? But then underneath the skeletal muscle, you have your metabolism and your respiratory system. So maybe the skeletal muscle's fine. Right? Maybe you got a failure there. Maybe it's metabolism, maybe it's respiratory. Or maybe the respiratory and the metabolism is fine, they just don't talk to each other. And because they don't talk to each other, you have problems. They're uncoupled. Because they're uncoupled, you have problems. Right? Or maybe metabolism, respiratory, like musculoskeletal system, maybe those systems are all working fine, but your bones are weak. Yeah. Maybe the bones, right? There's one thing to talk about the skeletal muscle, but what about the bones they're attached to? Right? What about the bones in the joints? Right? You got lower back pain. Why? It's 3 basic reasons. You know, like if you go to some of these websites, it gets complicated. If you learn about how your body works, it's three reasons. Simple. Right? Is it the spine? Is it the muscle? Or you have some organ stuff going on? Scary one is the organ stuff, right? You kind of want to hope. Yeah, you kind of want to hope is weak muscles, which for most people it is, right? But the problem is weak back muscles lead to spine problems. Weak back muscles lead to spine problems. So if you have weak back muscles, because your vertebrae are all attached to muscles pulling them like this. And so you get weak, then your vertebrae bends. If it bends, then you start pinching nerves and you start popping discs. You start pinching nerves and popping discs. Once you start pinching nerves and popping discs, the whole spine gets misaligned and then it gets crazy from there. Because nobody's going to wrestle with you to get to the root of the problem, because the root of the problem means you got to deal with a lot of pain. And most people have been taught to kill pain, even though pain is the healing signal. You can't really kill pain. You got to kind of deal with pain. Like that's a part of healing. Yeah, you don't even know when you're getting better if you healing up. I mean, if you're killing the pain, yeah, you got to deal with some degree of pain. Yeah. But it's hard if your spine is misaligned somewhere and you're trying to do exercises. You got to be careful, right? Because you could just move your back the wrong way and collapse, right? So you got to be careful with what you're doing. That's number one. Number two, it's going to hurt, right? But the other options are, right, surgery, drugs, or even a chiropractor. And chiropractors are dope, but chiropractors are like just, like fancy dope boys. Yeah, chiropractors are like dope boys. You know what I'm saying? Like they got some work for you. It's going to get you nice and high and make you feel good for a little while. But when that wear off, you got to go see them again. They create addicts, right? Because the alignments that they do when you go see them, those are only temporary. And they know those alignments they can only fix you up. Pop, pop, pop. That only lasts for a little while. So you good for a day, 2 days, a week, maybe, whatever. But you're going to be back like that again. And then you got to go see them for another fix. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you're not fixing your problem, right? You're not fixing your problem. And you don't know that you're not fixing your problem because you don't understand your problem because, we don't really take the time to study. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing we have to do. That's why we're creating all these books, right? The more you learn, the more it gets simple for you, right? But it's only going to be simple for a small, the group that's studying. It's going to start simplifying. You know what I'm saying? And then when you look at a piece of food, you see something different. When you think about exercise, it'd be something different. That's why, honestly, I haven't spent as much time as I would like to in the Declaration of Independence book, right? We have a book called The Declaration of Independence, Electrokinesiology, right? It's an exercise book, but it's about how you control gene expression and DNA expression and, with exercise. So I realized that I was like, just some of the questions from some of the people that have the book, that have been working through the book. I'm like, yeah, we need to heal up, wheel up, bring it back, come rewind. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think the physical is good. I think the physical is challenging, right? It's a 20-minute test. Basically, if you've been doing the prayers, then you've been practicing for the physical, right? If you've been doing the prayer, then you've been practicing for the physical, right? Because the physical is jumping jacks, push-ups, squats, toe raises, heel raises. That's the physical, period. So it's not like super complicated. It's not like a DEXA body scan. It's not going to tell you, but it's going to give you an idea of functionality and where you need to work at. And once we get an idea of functionality and where you need to work at, we can learn a lot. We can learn a lot. You know what I'm saying? It's like watching a good spy movie and you see how they get one piece of information off your laptop and then they're able to find out your whole life story. The more you learn about the body, the more you can do that. You know what I'm saying? And so you just move around a little bit, and how you move around, somebody that knows what they're looking for can start putting some stuff together, right? And because we have a time, everything that we do is 60 seconds, right? Everything is 60 seconds. Everything is based on the heart and the blood. It's been that way from the beginning. Everything we do is based on the heart and blood. It's been that way from the beginning, right? 60 and 60. That's how your blood is measured, total cardiac output, how much blood your heart circulates every 60 seconds. Because the average person's blood has to travel 60,000 miles every 60 seconds, right? So our program is all based on that idea, that concept, the math, right? Your body was designed with, because the more you learn about the function, the more you learn about the construction, the more you learn about the materials. It's almost like being able to look over God's shoulder a little bit and look at the blueprint. Yeah, you're able to look over God's shoulder a little bit and get glimpses of the blueprint to the whole program, at least of your body anyway, right? And you're like, oh, okay, so that's what. So once we put the timer on it, it changes. It changes everything. Trying to do 60 push-ups. Most people can't do 60 push-ups, right? But trying to do 60 push-ups in 60 seconds, that's different. That's different. The easiest thing to be able to do is the toe raises and the heel raises. But when you come off the toe raises and the heel raises, doing 60 squats in 60 seconds is different. It gets real different doing them squats, you know what I'm saying, in timed intervals, and then doing the push-ups after you just did the heel raises, the toe raises, the squats, and then do the push-ups, and then try to do the jumping jacks with your legs on fire, barely able to lift your arms up, you know what I'm saying, and then you time it, and then the times, write the times down, get the average, and then boom, you grade it. So in the book, you got the instruction, In the book, you got the instruction how to do it. And obviously, we'll be talking about it. We'll be talking about it. Right? We'll go into it. Yeah. Benefits of exercise, fat loss. Okay, hold on. I was just about to say, open up the book to page. Nobody has the book yet. Open up the book to page. Nobody has this book yet. Right? Nobody has this book yet. Right? But for the purposes of longevity, not only are we going to have to come up with a new name, but just totally new metrics, new measurements. Neurons. Right? So this has to become the measurement for longevity, right? This has to become the measurement for longevity, right? Neurons, nerves, heart, blood, right? Primarily the blood and the nerves. Right? Because neurons really aren't everywhere. Neurons aren't everywhere. The heart's really not. The heart's right in the center of things, but nerves are kind of everywhere. Right? They're big neurons. Neurons and nerves the same. Nerves are just a lot bigger, right? And blood is kind of everywhere, right? Blood is kind of everywhere. So these need to be the main two measurements that we begin to look at. And that's what we do. That's what we do with the next couple of books. We kind of zoom in, right? We zoom in on nerves and blood, right? We zoom in on nerves and blood because, first of all, nerves have to have a blood supply. Neurons need a blood supply. So on the surface, it's a lot easier to see how the nerves need blood the less easy to see how blood needs nerves. Yeah, it's a little bit less self-evident. It's a little less blatant, but all of your vessels, right? All of your vessels has smooth muscle. Remember, you have cardiac muscle, skeletal muscle, and then you have smooth muscle, right? The smooth muscle coats the vessels. The smooth muscles constricts or dilates the vessels, opens them or closes them, right? Where's that instruction coming from? That instruction's coming from the nerves that innervate the smooth muscle tissue, right? So the nerves are feeding and instructing the blood vessels while the blood vessels are feeding and instructing the nerves. The two are intertwined, just like everywhere else that electricity and magnetism are. When you have moving electric fields, it generates a magnetic. When you have moving magnet, like as above, so below. The same thing you heard in an abstract sense about electricity and magnetism also applies in your body. You just may not be able to see it, but it's your nervous system in your blood or your neurons in your blood, right? This is where Alzheimer's comes into play, or this is where sleep apnea comes into play, right? This is the story of the divine cow feeding the gods, right? The gods do what? Create reality. Well, reality is created in your mind. Don't think they didn't understand this in Kemet. Light and sound, those are things that are made. Color, color and sound, all of that's made in your mind, right? It's in your mind. So where they have the divine cow, we today have the NVU, the neurovascular unit, right? The neurovascular unit drip feeds the neurons, the astrocytes, the glial cells in the brain, right? Drip feeds, like breastfeed, right? Because they have to have their blood supply. Same thing, no different, right? They not only have to have their blood supply, they also have to have the cerebral spinal fluid. So they really need that baby formula, right? They really need that baby formula. And how do you observe brain activity? With an MRI, magnetic resonance unit, right? So all throughout your body, it's the same thing. Electricity and magnetism. Electricity, magnetism. That's why we have a pigment system, because electricity and magnetism are producing light everywhere. Information, right? So this is the purpose of the spine, right? Or really getting the study of it, because it's not as much as just like back pain, right? Because if you have a back pain somewhere, that's a key to go look at, L2, L3, T4, T3, whatever vertebrae is not in alignment, because the panic is it's going to mess with the nerves. And then if it messes with the nerve, because the nerve controls function somewhere. Yeah, the nerve attached to that vertebrae is somewhere in control of your ability to control your bladder. So you can't even pee, you need a diaper because your spine messed up. Or you can't get blood flow to your program because your spine messed up, right? Or maybe something's going on with your liver or somewhere else. Or maybe you're getting tingling down your arm because, yeah. They don't know whether it's a heart attack or whether you got a, pinched nerve in your neck. Right? So this is how we got to look at it. Right? This is how we got to look at it and then start to take it, take it from there and start to replace all of the ideas we had. Start to replace all the ideas we had. Right? Again, when we did the Scepter book, in the Scepter book, yeah, that's it. In the Scepter book, on page 14, if you have the Scepter book, pull it out. Pull it out. Pull this book out. On page 14, muscular strength is inversely and independently associated with all-cause mortality. That means it has a specific vital function. There are about 600 to 800 skeletal muscles in the human body. Smooth muscle typically occurs as individual cells, meaning that you actually have billions of smooth muscle cells, right? Smooth muscle cells. These are the muscles that make up your organs, that make up the vessels. These smooth muscle cells. All of those have to have nerves, right? The heart is the only organ that has its own type of muscle. And the thing that builds heart muscle is water. Matter of fact, let me send one. Let me go get my water. Let me go get my water.
Myron!
Oh,
Myron!
what?
What are you doing? What you doing?
What you talking about? What am I doing?
You reading them nasty books again, right, Myron?
Everybody read no nasty books, man. You scared the hell out of me. What you talking about, man? But I ain't did that in about 2 weeks.
You called yesterday too. What you reading? What you reading?
You scared the goddamn book, man. Dr. EnQi. I went on Amazon and got 3 Dr. EnQi books because I'm reading about melatonin and biochemistry.
What is, Myron, that's not even first of all, it's not melatonin and whatever it is that you just said. It's melanin and biochemistry. You can't even pronounce the word, so how you reading? How you reading, Myron?
I'm not looking at the pictures. I got the books right here. I'm looking at the pictures. You know, ain't nothing nasty about this. So what are you talking about? I got all the books right here. What are you talking about?
Myron, you don't even know how to read. Every time we get mail, you bring it to me. You think I don't know that?
I got hooked on Phoenix. Now, what you talking about? I was hooked on Phoenix, so I know how to read.
As of when? Because first of all, hooked on phonics, I believe it's for kids. There's no such thing as hooked on Phoenix. And if I recall, you're the same person that thought reindeer was pronounced reinder, and you're the same person that thought pigeon was pronounced piggion. So it makes sense that you went to hooked on Phoenix.
Man, such a dumbass.
No,
you always trying to say somebody can't read. I know exactly what I'm talking about, man. I'm reading the book. I got the goddamn receipt right here. I got the goddamn receipt right here for the books. What you talking about?
Well, you need to return them for somebody who know how to read them. And I still don't. It's probably all type of stuff in the inside of the books, Myron. That's how sneaky you are. Give me the books. Give me the books, Myron.
No.
Give me the books, Myron. Give me the books, Myron.
I'm not giving you. No, I got these books off Amazon. I'm not giving you the books. Ain't that no?
Yo, bye. Bye.
I've been in this game. Yeah, you animal. Animal, The gods have blessed us.
Muscles have a range of functions from pumping blood and supporting movement to lifting heavy weights or giving birth. If muscles are responsible for pumping blood, I'm on the bottom of page 14. If muscles are responsible for pumping blood, and we know that pumping blood at particular thresholds of force is a trigger for particular molecular protein synthesis, we have the solid footing to label skeletal muscle as a vital organ, right? So that's what we jumped off the top rope with in this book, right? Changing the view and perspective of muscle from something that's a vanity, just something to look at, or something to like monetize and, to a vital tissue. Vital tissue, right? Vital tissue. You got to understand this concept. Vital tissue. Now they have the studies of number one, it is the most impactful thing on all-cause mortality. Skeletal muscle tissue. And the reason being is because it pumps blood. We could just simplify it. It pumps blood. All of your muscle tissue pumps blood, right? But the thing is, if you don't know all what pumps blood actually entails, then it doesn't really hit right. It doesn't really have the same, for me, it's like LeBron on the fast break, it's crazy. But that's from my perspective. Remember, you don't see with your eyes, you see with your mind. So because when I'm thinking pump blood, I'm thinking about, cleaning cells, carrying away waste. I'm thinking about the lymphatic system. I'm thinking about, carrying nutrients and how your heart is able to rest. Think about how important sleep is. Think about how important rest is to your recovery, right? Your body has to get that. How does your heart get rest? How does your heart get a break? Since your heart always has to beat. How does your heart get a break? Your heart gets a break when you exercise. That's the only time your heart gets a break. Because whenever you exercise, whatever that muscle tissue is, that muscle tissue now, for that time period, just while you're exercising, but for that time period that you're exercising, that group of tissues is now pumping blood, right? So if you're working the chest is now pumping blood, and the beauty about some of these muscles is you can't work them alone. Even if you try, you can't. Right? Even if you try, you can't. You can't work the chest by itself, no matter what. Right? The way your chest is built is you can't work it by itself. Right? You're gonna also, if you do push-ups, you're working the entire arm, from your hands all the way up to your shoulders, into your chest, right? To some degree, you're working your back, your abs, right? You feel it everywhere, right? And that's just what you can see, because the beauty about working the chest is you also get to work the intercostals. You're working the rib cage, right? So all of these muscles now take the load off of the heart to pump blood. And when that happens, the heart works less. The heart works less and gets filled up even more. It works less and gets filled up more. When it gets filled up more, well, hopefully if you're drinking water, it gets filled up more, it stretches more, and it bounces back. And now you start to work the heart, right? Because the heart works on blood volume, right? Glucose, blah, 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 fuels the muscles, 29 muscles in the human foot, blah, blah, blah. 21 muscles cross the hip to provide. Okay, so we go into a little, you know, we go into a little breakdown, a little idea, little drip. This is a little drip right here, right? We try to give you a little idea. There are 29 muscles associated with the human foot. 10 originate outside the foot, but cross the ankle joint to act on the foot, and 19 are intrinsic foot muscles, right? So you have 19 muscles in the foot, just like you have 19 vertebrae in your spine, right? That's kind of, that's kind of lit. As above, so below. You're like, wait a minute, I thought it was 26. The cervical vertebrae are not really a part of the spine in the back, right? The cervical vertebrae extend above the back. So you take out the 7, you have 19, right? The muscles of the leg are divided, and that's what the Quran, the whole Quran is based on, the Jed pillar. The muscles of the leg are divided into 3 compartments: the anterior compartment, the posterior compartment, and the lateral compartment. In total, there are 13 separate muscles across these 3 compartments. 21 muscles cross the hip to provide both triplanar movement and stability between the femur, right, which is your thigh bone, and the acetabulum. The word acetabulum literally means little vinegar cup. It's a Latin word for a small vessel for serving vinegar. There are 3 bones of the os cocci, which is the hip bone, that come together to form the acetabulum. Contributing a little bit more than 2/5 of the structure is the ischium, which provides lower and side boundaries to the acetabulum. The ilium forms the upper boundary, providing a little less than 2/5 of the structure of the acetabulum. The rest is formed by the pubis near the midline. The pelvic floor is made of 14 different muscles. The pelvis is the area of the body below the abdomen that is located between the hip bones and contains the bladder and rectum. Exercise is especially required for these muscles as we age to control pooping and sexual function. The need for the diaper will get even crazier. The first thing to go is your ability to control pee-pee. The second thing to go, yeah, I'm just saying, getting these books and spending some time reading and exercising is, listen, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what I can tell you though is for sure. Your use of the herbal salesman that's just selling you herbs and stuff without knowledge because they don't have it, you're going to be mad that you gave all your money to these guys that didn't really help you heal your body. but you can't do anything about it in hindsight. You know what I'm saying? Every different place I go, somebody tells me, oh, yo, I'll be listening to you and such. Or yo, EnQi, it's only like you and 2 other people are listening. I'm like, all right. I can't criticize their compliment, but in my mind, woo! Yeah. Anyway, we'll just read that one again, because the pelvic floor, you got people winning bodybuilding contests that they're not worried about the pelvic floor. And by the time they get 50, they wish they was worried about the pelvic floor, right? The pelvic floor is made of 14 different muscles. The pelvis is the area of the body below the abdomen that is located between the hip bones and contains the bladder and rectum. Exercise is especially required for these muscles as we age to control pooping and sexual function. Now, because the muscles themselves pump blood in and out, right? The act of exercising builds the nerves to these places. I want you to hear what I'm saying. The act of exercising pumps blood in and out of the place you're exercising. So like we talk about the pelvic floor, 14 muscles in there, right? So when you exercise the pelvic floor, you bring blood into the pelvic floor, more than just the bare minimum to survive for these cells. When you bring all that rush of blood into the pelvic floor, that rush feeds all the nerves that's attached to these muscles and makes them bigger and makes them stronger. As the nerves get bigger and stronger, guess what? You have more control of the muscles. When you have more control of the muscles, guess what you have? Better function. That's health. That's why part of the prayer, right? We start with the foot. We do toe raises and heel raises. Why? Because you got almost 30 muscles in each one of your feet. And nobody thinks about that. Well, there's a whole bunch of capillaries and nerves down there that need your help. Right? And I'm saying this as we missed prayer. It's all right. Right? There are 5 muscles that form the abdominal part of the anterior trunk. Right? That's the home of the apron, in case you don't know about the greater omentum, right? These are the rectus abdominis, the pyramidalis, the external abdominal oblique, the internal abdominal oblique, and the transversus abdominis. The first 3 are classified as vertical muscles, and they are located near the midline. The remaining ones are flat muscles, and they are located more laterally. The back has a total of 40 muscles. There are 20 muscle pairs, 1 on each side of the body, depending on how the muscles are counted. Right? Depending on how the muscles are counted. Our chest or the pectoral region contains 4 muscles: the pectoralis major, pectoralis minor, serratus anterior, and subclavius. You have more than 20 neck muscles extending from the base of your skull and jaw down to your shoulder blades and collarbones. Your face has 43 muscles. There are 30 muscles in each hand working together. There are 24 different muscles that make up each arm, and they control the movements of the elbow, forearm, wrist, and the fingers. Compared to the 5 muscles of the upper arm, the lower arm contains 19 different muscles that are divided into anterior, and posterior. They can be superficial or deep, right? So we just went through 3 pages. That's just 3 pages in the Wild Scepter book, right? These books are dense books with information, right? Dense, right? Dense. And we go over the information to try to give you a deeper and deeper understanding to make it simple, right? To make it simple, to simplify this thing, right? To simplify this thing. Because once you get the whole full concept, right? Just like we talked about the neurons and the nerves needing the blood, right? And we talked about the brain, right? You know, oh, okay, well, blood flow. If blood flow is a problem to the feet, you know the head is even worse. Because you're dealing with the extremities, capillaries. The problem is your feet have the help of gravity at least. Not so much up top. Not so much up top. Right? So some people can start to feel the strain in their neck. If you can feel the strain in your neck or up in here, right? That might be arteries and things like that struggling. It might be arteries and things struggling, right? Yeah, that might be arteries and things struggling, right? So when we increase the strength of the circulatory system, right? When we increase our spirituality, that's what we're going to say. That's what we're going to say. We're not going to say fitness. We're going to say spirituality. That's what we're going to say. Spirituality, because spirituality is fitness. Spirituality is fitness. That's what we're going to say. That's what it is. There we go. That's the bar right there. I knew it was going to come to me before the night was up. Spirituality is fitness. Spirituality is fitness. See that? That's it right there. Spirituality. Woo! That's the one right there. Spirituality is fitness. So that's what we're increasing spirituality, right? We're increasing spirituality, right? That's the bar right there. Yo. Nah, listen, all of these books. Yeah, absolutely. Now, when we increase our spirituality, of course, that's going to take the shape of diamagnetism, and magnetism proper, right? But that's it right there. That's the bar right there. And just in case I'm gonna get home tonight, wanna make love to you for the last time, baby. Hold on, we're going. Yeah, we might have to get to this a few times. We might have to do this a few times over the next few days, just so we get it. Hold on, just so we get it. Let's just make sure that we might have to read this a few times because everybody don't be in the live every day, right? So let's just make sure we all on the same page. Spirit, life, the animating vital principle in man and animals. Spirit, soul. From the Latin spiritus, of breathing, breath. Right? Spirare, to breathe. Right? So when we talk about Nefer, right? Don't get it twisted. All of these concepts of spirituality came from Kemetic science. It starts with Nefer. That's why we're in Neferland. It starts with Nefer, the windpipe and the heart. The windpipe and the heart. That's the star of the show right there. Windpipe, heart. Right? So spirituality, right? That's going to be our term. That's how we going to rock it. Right? That's how we going to rock it. Right? Spirituality. Now, if you go to a hospital, right? If you go to a medical doctor, right? If you go to a medical doctor or you go to like maybe a $1,000 an hour trainer. They're going to tell you the most potent measurement of health, like physical health and vitality, is VO2 max. Right? So if you go to a medical doctor or even a surgeon, or you go to like, $1,000, $5,000 an hour trainer, they're going to put you on the treadmill, put the machines on your face and all that. And they're going to tell you this is the ultimate measure for your overall physical health. VO2 max. We want to get the most accurate reading we can on VO2 max. That's going to tell us everything. Well, guess what? You late. That's not cutting edge. They knew that 5,000 years ago. It's in Kemet. It's on the walls. It's in the Bible. All throughout the Bible. The problem is we just had a lot of middlemen. Oh, we had a lot of middlemen. We've had millions of middlemen come to try and reinterpret this. But see, once we understand those original terms like Netchers and Elohim and El and some of those terms, and then we understand the actual definition of spirit, they go like this. Oh yeah, it all starts making super sense. It's super plain. It's not complicated. It's not a lot to argue about, right? El Shaddai is not like the God who kidnaps children and breastfeeds them, or Moloch is in the woods with the Bilderberger group. Like, that's not happening. That's not in the Bible. Yeah, Bohemian Grove, the God of Bohemian Grove, that's just clicks and views. Jordan Maxwell died, right? He passed, transitioned, right? And then a lot of people saw an opportunity. Whoop. Let me be him. Let me jump in that space and start, let me keep them stories going. Yeah. So this is the idea. Improve the breath, right? Improve the breath. Increase actual spirituality, right? When we do that, this increases the magnetism of the heart, because everybody, at least that's watching my channel, is aware of the magnetism of the heart, and the heart magnetism extends, and so you may even be aware of like Heart Math Institute and some of these other places, right? But the thing where people get lost, and it's the same thing like when people be on the internet Googling like olive oil. Like, oh yeah, olive oil was super healthy and blah, blah, blah. EnQi, which oil do you think is the best? I'm like, yo, y'all gotta relax, man. Y'all Googling and y'all losing context. You're Googling and losing context because you're not translating that information to the real world. Each individual is different. So when you see some math on how far the heart, magnetism, that's an average. That's not everybody. If you smoking all them cigarettes and Black and Milds and backwoods and all that, your heart ain't that strong. Don't believe that they talking about you when they say, oh yeah, your heart magnetism, it extends 3 feet from the body and 12 feet and blah, blah. They not talking about you. Yeah, that don't include you. That's not you. If right now you got the fries open with the, that's not you. No. You at the low part of the average. Because see, that's the average. They taking the best, strongest hearts, averaging them out with the weakest hearts, and then they coming up with the middle number. So the middle number is the number that goes in the book, the number that gets typed in the internet, boom, boom, boom. The people look it up. They go, oh yeah, 12 feet, boom. A 12-foot average or a 5-foot average, whatever. That means some people is at like 20 feet, and some people they can't even barely send. The machine ain't even picking theirs up. They're like, man, how are you still alive? That's amazing. You didn't see that interview Damon Wayans did with Shannon Sharp? He was walking around with his blood sugar at like 500-600. The doctors go, how are you alive? He didn't even know he was supposed to be dead. Like that's probably how he was alive. Right? So improving the ability to breathe, right? But like we said earlier, right? We got to get to know breathing. We got to get to know breathing. Breathing is the single most important thing in the world. The single most important thing in the world, and it's the thing we take for granted the most. Single most important thing in the world, the one thing we take for granted the most. It's a fact. So we got to learn about it, right? We got to learn about it, right? The whole world don't even know this. Like this right here, we know this. We're not even a percent. We're not even a percent of the world. Like this is why y'all got to get these books and study, and then, You got to create study groups where you at. You got to grab these video clips and post little clips and make up little clips and put it on your social media. And you got to become the teacher out there. You got to usually sell, get people to buy the books. Like, you got to get your people. You got to bring them up to speed. If you love them, you got to teach them. The most valuable thing that you could give to somebody you love is knowledge and wisdom. Right? Trying to tell you. Yo, that's a fact. Yo, that is a certified big fact. But the problem, listen, here's the thing, Peyton. I want you to understand this. The problem is not the people that's making the living, like the whole Gia platform. Oh my God. Bless their souls. They going to hell. They oh my goodness. They go. Listen. The problem is that the people are walking around with that on their mind. Because see, we tune into the frequency. We tune into the frequency we interested. That's what the people, unfortunately, 19 out of 20 people want to hear got that gobbledygook. Yeah. So it's much easier to say, I'm going to just say the things that people want to hear. Because if I say the things that you want to hear, that makes me a lot more likable. Saying the things that people want to hear makes you more likable. That's how pimps pimp. That's literally how pimps pimp. People was reading Dr. York books for decades, and they had no idea that he put pimp, like he had a pimp line on the back of his books. So they was unsuspected, like, victims. They didn't understand that he was literally saying on the back of, I'm turning you out. On the back of all Dr. York books, at least the first ones, I stopped reading after a while. It got crazy. Once the Man on Riz came out, I was like, oh, they lost it, right? When it was the Bible stuff, I was tapped into the Bible, But once it got to the Man on Riz, I was like, oh, whoa. I'm gonna hit the eject button. This was way before people found out what was really going on. But just being from the street, red flag was already up. Because in the back of his books, it said, I came giving you what you want, so you will want what I had to give. That's from the street. That's Iceberg Slim, Donald Goins. That's pimp language. Yeah. That's basic 101. Like, if you say the things that people want to hear, that makes you likable. Now, there's no growth in that scenario. There's no growth in that scenario. Like, you could grow materially because you get favor with people. If you say the things that people constantly like, you become favorable to them, and then they reward you for that. Right? So you can get monetary gain quickly that way. Right? But usually, the people you're doing that to are gullible. So you don't really, it's. But if that's your goal, just to get the bread, then run it up. So that's where you see a lot of platforms growing, like, but you can't teach that way. Teaching is correction. Teaching is correction. That's why teachers don't make that much money in the real world. Teachers are underpaid because teachers aren't liked. People only like their teachers after they graduate from the class. After they graduate, people like their teacher. When they was in that class, they hated that teacher. Later on, when they get in life, they be like, man, that main teacher that they hated, that was like their favorite teacher. When they look back on it, they're like, yo, that was the realest teacher I had. Yo, yeah, Mr. Such and Such, really, Mrs. Such and Such, like, because teaching is correction. You can't teach if you can't say, nah, that's incorrect. That's wrong. Not the right answer, fam. That's not the right answer. We got to try to. Yeah. So it's not a quick. Teaching is definitely not a get rich quick scheme. Period. Not actual teaching where you expect the people to learn stuff. Yeah, where you need the people to actually learn stuff. Yes. Not a get rich quick scheme. You gonna be struggling just like the people you teaching. They gonna be struggling to learn. You gonna be struggling to earn. But God got us, right? Yeah, that's how you gotta look at it. Yeah. So one of the other things that we talked about in the Wascepter book. See, sometimes what happens is I just get into a pocket and I start going into a book, whatever. And I know it's going to be an uphill battle because there's no reason for me to write a book if everybody knows the info. The purpose of putting the book together is information that people don't know. Information that people don't know. It's a struggle. You got to struggle with people to get them to learn it, and the correction and the back and forth and the right. So a lot of times we drop the book, we go over some stuff. We may go over it once or twice, and then it's a new book, maybe even 10 new books. But what's happening is you may not notice is as we're going through those new books are expounding on some of those other ideas because you needed them as foundational pieces to get to the next piece, and the next piece, because we're here like this. We don't necessarily have a grading system where we can go first grade, second grade, third grade, fifth grade, middle school, high school, college. We all sit in griot style, like the ancestors did, like the ancient ones, where we just all together in a circle. We got 10 or 15, elementaries and 15, 20 middle schools. You got 20 or 30 high schoolers. You got 50, 10, 20, college. Then you got 20 or 30 people as your peers. And then you're going to have some folks sitting along the sides in the back that know more than you. Those are the elders. They just watching like, let me see how he putting this thing together. Okay. No, that ain't. Oh, wait till he finished this. I'm going to call him right up after this live. No, that ain't. You can't do that, EnQi. You got to slow that down. Do it like this. Oh, all right. Well, the next book out. Yeah, I got folks that that hit me up. Yeah, where you going? Where you going without checks and balances? Right? So we have another concept in this Wascepter book that I just want to highlight. We're going to spend a bunch of time on it, but it's noteworthy. Noteworthy. No. Nerves and muscles function together in the same way the heart. No. Somatose sensation is a mixed sensory category. No. Okay. I'm probably not going to find the page. Man, I would like to be able to give y'all a page number though. Muscle tissue, blood flow. I feel like it's right in here somewhere. I know what I'm looking for though. Here we go. Page 42. Yep. Counter current heat exchange. Counter current heat exchange. Counter current heat exchange. That's important. Counter current heat exchange. Because right now, on the surface level to that is warm blood sharing light with cooler blood. Right? This is what's happening in the legs. As your arteries and veins, where they come close to each other, heat leaves the warmer blood and goes to the cooler blood, right? But you know, heat, that's infrared light, right? And you know that light is carrying information. So I'm just saying, like, foundational concept, later on, right? Later on, it will be adding some more onto it, right? Like we talked about this, the Hebrew, right? We talked about the Hebrew, right? Blood being the number 44, right? And how when the number is repeated, right, it's telling you something about whatever that thing is, right? So the number 4 blood types, right? We went through those different ways that the number 4 describes blood, right? 4 grams of sugar in your blood system at any given moment, right? Each blood cell has 4 chambers for iron, right? And each one of those irons hold 1 oxygen. So not only does each blood cell have 4 chambers of iron, they hold 4 molecules of oxygen, right? 4 blood types, 4 grams of sugar in the blood, right? So we wanted to add something else onto that. Yeah, we wanted to add something else onto that. Right? We want to add another piece onto that. We want to add another piece onto that. Right? We want to add we want to add 4 milliliters. Right? So we want to add 4 milliliters to the 4. Right? To the whole 4 program. 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. 4 milliliters. right? 4 milliliters every 60 seconds. Right? The average person. Now remember, we back to the average thing. I just explained to you how average is not everybody. Right? Average is not everybody. 4 milliliters of blood. Right? So if you take John Q. Public, right? Take the average person that doesn't work out. Like this, let's go to the bottom of the barrel. Right? Average person that doesn't work out. Now remember, this is powered by the breath, right? This is spirituality, right? This is average. So some people's even less than 4 milliliters of blood, right? Moving through their muscle tissue, right? This is how much blood moves through your muscle tissue, right? This is important. Remember, we just went through the Wacepter book, highlighting different parts of the body, different muscle groups, talking about the skeletal muscle as a secondary or tertiary pump for blood, right? When you don't use your muscle tissue, right? First of all, your muscle atrophies. So your muscles are small. Yeah, the muscle that you don't use is not big, right? What goes along with larger muscle is more capillaries and more nerves. So you actually grow nerves and you grow capillaries as the muscle grows, right? So that's what I'm saying. We got to have a lot more different way to look at exercise than just like Mr. Olympia and all that kind of, I got a 6-pack for the, for the garden hose, you know what I'm saying? Like 4 milliliters of blood pass through the muscles every 60 seconds, right? So it should be easy for you to remember, along with the 4 grams of circulating glucose, the 4 blood types, the 4 atoms of iron, the 4 molecules of oxygen. Now you got 4 milliliters of blood, right? Now, every time you exercise, you increase that number, right? You increase that number, and you can increase that number up to 200. You can increase that number up to 200 every 60 seconds. 200 milliliters every 60 seconds. Now, obviously, that's going to require more capillaries, more nerves. So it's going to require what? Right? Now, look, remember what? I know some of y'all be losing attention span after 30, 40 minutes, but if you hear it from the beginning of the video, you remember. Remember we said function, construction, material, right? Function, construction, material. So if I build the muscle a little bit, I got to build capillaries. I got to build nerves. So I need material, right? What's the construction material look like? It's not just branch chain amino acids, right? It's not just BCAAs, right? I need my lysine and my vitamin C and my copper. Those are the 3 things I need most. Lysine, vitamin C, copper, right? But now I'm trying to build more blood, right? So then I'm going to also need my B vitamins more, right? I'm going to need my iron, right? So we get this up. That's 50 times the amount. That's 50 times the amount. Because now the muscle is pumping blood. So now we got numbers. You know, it's Dr. Listen, hold up. Y'all know we had to come with this, right? You know we had to come with the math. Yeah, we had to come with the math. You know we had to come with the math. The math was coming. Right? But now we got more blood flow. Right? So now what does that mean? Right? More blood flow means nutrients in, waste out. Right? So that means I'm getting look. That means I'm getting 50 times more nutrients into the cells and 50 times more waste out of the cells. Blood flow is a limiting factor. Listen to what I'm telling you. Blood flow is a limiting factor. It's a limiting factor for how you clean your cells out. It's a limiting factor for how you feed them. Right? Because remember, it's blood that has to bring all them. They don't matter. You're getting Dr. EnQi herbs and the blue magic and you're getting smoothies from here and there and green juices. All that still got to carry in the blood. So you got slow blood flow like this. That stuff barely getting in there, right? So when you increase the flow, right? You increase the nutrients in, you increase the waste going out, right? Now, let's do another analogy. Maybe this will just be super simple, make it make sense, right? Maybe this will just make it make sense, right? Analogies be hit or miss, you know what I'm saying? But they help some people, right? Think about if you had a twin. And when I say an identical twin, I'm talking about super identical, like identical in every way. You and your twin is like almost like Siamese, like y'all with each other every day, all day. Y'all eat the exact same meal, exact same time, same person cooked it. Y'all have the same bad habits, good habits, sex, exercise, whatever. Everything y'all do the same. The only thing different between you and this twin is that for every one time you go to the bathroom and poop, they go 50 days later. So they got 50 days. They got 50 days worth of poop backed up in them, and you got one day, yeah. They'd be dead, right? Like Method Man, remember on that album, Method Man said he's gonna sew your booty up so you can't poop and just keep feeding you and feeding you and feeding you and feeding you. That's a real torture. That's a real thing. After 3 days, after I think like 7 days or 8 days, something like that. After like a week, you need surgery. Because after 3 days, your poop starts turning into like concrete. It starts getting hard. So after like a week, you're going to need surgery. or at the bare minimum, you're going to need them to put some medicine up there. Yeah. Once 2 weeks go around and you don't have any poop and you eating 3-4 times a day, oh, it's a wrap. You be lucky if something don't explode in there. Yeah, something might explode in there. Now, as crazy or nasty as this analogy sounds, your cells is the same way. Your cells are the same way. Yeah. Your cells are the same way. Right? So this is why we have, this is why we have the iron on the website. This is why we have, the anabolic hormone help. It's not so you could pretend like it's a steroid and then like it's not that. People trying to win bodybuilding contests, they need the muscle to grow. They need mTOR activity. People who just trying to stay alive, instead of focusing on the muscles growing, they need to focus on the capillary growth and the nerve connectivity. Nerve connectivity and nerve growth is the same thing. So if you try to look some of this stuff up, you might not see nerve growth, you might see nerve connectivity, but that's how your nerves get more connected with a set of tissue, by growing more nerves, right? So the more nerves, the more nerve connectivity, right? But your capillaries grow, your nerves grow, right? With strength, right? We meant to redefine strength as well, right? But this is the important thing, right? You can increase the blood flow. Now, if we go back to, oh man, them books is on my bed. I got Ebers Papyrus volume 1, 2, and 3 on my bed. But if you go back to, I think it's volume 3. I think it's volume 3. I ain't going to get it. But we talked about congestive heart failure, right? It's one of them books. We were talking about congestive heart failure. And in the congestive heart failure book, or in the Ebers Papyrus book, in the congestive heart failure section, right? We was talking about stroke volume, right? Ejection volume, right? Total cardiac output, right? Total cardiac output is the amount of blood that your heart circulates in 60 seconds, right? Remember, it's always going to be 60 seconds. This is why our exercise program is built around 60 seconds. It's built around your body, right? So your heart is measured in how much blood it could pump in 60 seconds. That's total cardiac output, right? Your ejection fraction or ejection volume is how much blood is pumped out of the ventricles each beat, right? And then stroke volume is how much you pump out of the heart, right? Kind of the same, right? But obviously, those things have to increase in order for this to increase, right? The performance of the heart and the output of the heart, right, has to increase in order for blood flow everywhere else to increase, right? But then we got to get into the finer details, right, up in there, right? We give praise and thanks, right? The semilunar valve into the vineyard, right? So there's a speed at which blood moves through the lungs, through the alveoli, right? The vineyard, right? We give praise and thanks for the olfactory system that makes our grapes ripe with light, right? to get that CO2 out of there and get that oxygen in there, all of those things has to change. That gas exchange rate, the speed that the gas exchange, that has to improve, right? There's a few things that has to change down the road with the lungs for that to improve, right? We got to make sure that all the chambers of the blood, the iron is there, right? We got to get the magnetism right? But then we want the pulmonary membrane to be nice and thin, not thick, not hyperplasia, not, inflammation, right? We want that to be thin, right? We want the lungs to be pressed. We want maximum pressure in the lungs, because the more pressure, the more volume pressure in the lungs, the easier that oxygen gonna move through the alveoli into the blood, right? So we want all those things to happen easier, faster, so that way the blood gets oxygenated quicker. You have more oxygen there for more blood, right? Because if we're growing more capillaries and we're loading up the muscles with more blood, right? And the muscles are starting to grow a little bit. Well, we're going to need more blood, right? So go to the lymphatic immunity book. If you don't have the lymphatic immunity book, you should be able to say this at home to yourself by now. Go to Amazon, put it in your cart, check out, right? In the lymphatic immunity book, we talk about the water mill and the windmill. The water mill and the windmill, how air moves through the body, how water moves through the body, right? How your body decides to hold water, release water, right? If you drink a gallon, how much did it keep, right? How much did it keep, right? As it's filtering through your body, how much did it send to the bladder and, down? How much went that way to get back to the toilet bowl? Like how much, what you doing, right? And why? Are you peeing a lot because you got a lot of sugar in your blood? Are you peeing a lot because you just caffeine, diuretic, right? So all of these are things that we want to. Okay, let's go. Let's go. We almost went the whole live stream with no super chats. Saved by the bell. Shout out to Danny. We definitely appreciate you for that. Yeah, it is blocking some people's orders, depending on their payment type. Like depending on what type of card or whatever they use. Because we had some stuff going on. We had some, I don't know, every couple of years I have bad Christmases. And we had some stuff going on over the holiday season. Folks be singling me out to get scammy on me. So I forgot what you call it, the pay gate or whatever I think it's called the pay gate. Like they just added more security measures to they added more security. So I don't know. Maybe I need to start. Some people might just hit me up on a text message, and I might take orders on text messaging. You know what the problem is? People are kind of lazy. Not you, but I'm just saying people are lazy. So if I start saying I'm taking orders by text messaging, everybody will be sending me an order on my phone. Everybody will be sending me an order on my phone, and then my website. Then I have other issues on my website. You know what I'm saying? Like my order volume will go down, and then it'll be some other, it's AI is everywhere now. You know what I'm saying? So they monitor stuff. If I start getting false payments, then they add security. If my volume, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I might start doing that though for select people. I might have to do that for select people. I might just have to, like, if you're not able to order. Oh, you know what? That's how to do it. I could go to the thing and verify that you tried to order and it didn't let you order. And then I could take your order on the phone. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So don't be hitting me up out there if you just like, oh, well, I'm going to just go ahead and order directly with it. I'm going to send you to the website if you ain't ordered. But if you order or you tried to and it didn't let you, then yeah, we're gonna get it together. Because I need people to have whatever they need to have. Yeah, I need people to have whatever they need to have. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Because it's definitely letting other folks order. But you're not alone. You're not alone. You know what I'm saying? You're not alone. It's definitely not letting some people through. So, yeah. That's the only thing I know to say. Yeah. But definitely, we want to thank you for the super chat. Yeah, that's what we're going to do, though. All right. So I think we cooking. I'm not sure if I want to add to this. Because I feel like we in a spot where we got some good. I feel like we got some good understanding. Like, I think we had like I think we made some good headway. Because then if I start talking about the rib cage as a Faraday cage, right? I don't know if that might, yeah, you know what I'm saying? That might start, they might be like, hey, you gave us too much already. Don't start confusing us talking about Faraday cages, right? But at some point, we got to have that conversation, though, right? The more we think about the heart, right? The more we understand the heart is electric, magnetic, and blah, blah, blah. The more people die, right? It becomes a more pressing issue, right? The more people die from cardiac arrest, right? The more this becomes a pressing issue because, listen, to John Q. Public, I mean John Q. Public, like straight John Q. Public. Most people believe that a stroke, a heart attack, and cardiac arrest is all the same thing. They just know it happens and you die really like right on the spot. So yeah, that's the same thing. Every day I get somebody, ain't a stroke and a heart attack like the same thing? Like it's the same, ain't it? It's like it's close. It's like, it's like the same thing. Like, you get a stroke, heart attack, like, yeah, it's the same thing. And they don't get my frustration. I'm like, the fact that we just, ain't it like the same thing? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, yo, how you, that's the same as you going to a car dealer, right? And, you done saved up or whatever the case may be. You want to get you a nice, expensive car. You got $80,000 or you got approved for $80,000. And you go there and you test drive a Mercedes. Yeah, you done test drive the BMW. You done test drive the Range Rover. You like, yeah, this the one. You done ran your credit for the joint. You know what I'm saying? You like, yeah, this the one. Then you got to prove $80,000 car. You about to, ooh-wee. Yeah, you like, oh, I'm about to kill him. I'm about to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you sign for the payments and all that. Woo, 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 woo. At the end of that whole process, homeboy throw you the keys to like a used station wagon. And you looking at the keys like, what is this? And he like, come on now. Come on now. You know, station wagon, fresh Range Rover, used station wagon, brand new Range Rover. It's the same thing, ain't it? It's like it's the same thing. It like turn on and drive. It's the same thing, right? That's exactly how. Now, like, nah, that ain't even funny. That ain't even close to the same thing. That's how I be looking at folks. They be like, yeah, ain't a cardiac arrest in the heart. That's like a cardiac arrest and heart attack. Like that's the same thing. And it gets even crazier because folks be having online gurus that be dropping it like that. They got herbs. Yeah, they selling herb packages for heart attack and cardiac arrest. The same herbs. Like, all I could do is just write the books. Like, I'm gonna just write these books and just hopefully they read the books. I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say. Yeah, it's not the same. Right? So stroke is blood flow issue. Blood flow is not getting in there. Stuff is getting ready to shut down. Heart attack is a fuel problem for the heart. Heart attack is a fuel problem. Yeah. Cardiac arrest, no, and stroke happens somewhere else. So don't even think stroke and heart at all. Like stroke is happening somewhere else, right? It's like the blood flow problem to the brain, like this. But heart attack, muscle tissue, fuel issue, cardiac arrest, electrical issue. Yeah, like that's the thing that you don't want to hear, because the same thing as your car mechanic going to tell you is the same thing the doctor's going to tell you. They don't understand electrical issues in the heart. There's no real answer for that. They're just going to do you like that. Like, yeah, we could put that. Say when you go to the car mechanic and you got an electrical issue, they be like, listen, you know what you should do? Let us go ahead and put that on the diagnostic machine one more time. Hey, Jimmy, connect that thing back to the thing. Put that thing back on it. That's all they're going to do in the hospital. Run a few more tests. They don't have an idea. They don't know where the electricity is coming from. You know, they just started to admit that there are melanocytes in the heart. Like so it's a whole nother, you know. So we got to get that down packed. It's like electricity, magnetism. The reason why the heart has such a large output of magnetism is because there's so much electricity going on. Right? There's so much electricity going on. So the more we get the heart flowing and get the heart working, right? But the thing is, the more we learn about the heart as an electrical device, right? Electrical devices are subject to interference. They're subject to interference. You know what I'm saying? Now you got to think about that. Yeah. All electrical devices are subject to interference. You know what I'm saying? Unless there's some type of protection that goes around it, right? And so the heart has a Faraday cage, the rib cage. We don't see it like that, though, because science don't really discuss electricity, magnetism, light, and all the other stuff that's going on. You know what I'm saying? But the rib cage is active. The rib cage is active. That's why when people need stem cell treatments, they go to the ribs. The rib cage is active. The ribs are active. Yeah, and the ribs are an extension to an extent, pun intended. The ribs are an extension of the thoracic vertebrae, right? So that makes them like connected with the spine. Yeah, they connected with the spine. So it's, you know. So anyway, yeah. It's more stuff.